Hello guys, it's Teenage DC Fan back in the video, and this week we finally witnessed the moment when Beth crossed that threshold and Alice was born. So just quick warning, this video does contain spoilers for Batwoman Season 1, Episode 15, Off With Her Head. So this episode was, let's just say, a lot. In a good way, though. So, because throughout its first season, Batwoman has been at its best when it strips the episodes down to a simple premise and a character-driven story. That's especially true whenever the character at the wheel is Rachel Skarsten's Alice. And for that reason, Off With Her Head might be one of the best episodes of this series so far. So when we last left our favorite villain, Alice, she had just learned that Mouse was being held captive by his father, attached to a canister of fear toxin. So Alice, of course, doesn't waste any time in rushing to her friend's rescue. But when she arrives, he ends up turning on her and straps her to the fear toxin instead and forcing her to face down her greatest nightmares, including the Red Queen. And we've spent this entire season, about 15 episodes now, I think, believing that Alice's trauma was terrible but ultimately simple. As Beth, she was taken from the river by Cartwright and kept in his basement to be a friend to a son he had decided was too disfigured to live in the normal world. In that basement, she was forced to endure abuse and neglect, until the day he allowed her out in order to teach her to make faces from human flesh. And it's a terrible way for a young girl to grow up, and it's honestly no surprise that she retreated into the book that she and Mouse used to escape. Only it wasn't just Cartwright who tormented her. I mean, he was bad enough, but it was also his mother. And it wasn't just a slow breakdown of her mind, because that other terror in her life that was Cartwright's mother was possibly even worse than him. And they couldn't have had one without the other. Like, if it was just the Cartwright dude that was abusing her, I mean, she wouldn't be as bad as she is, but throwing in his mother, that's when she became broken, even if the cracks had formed over years. So this week we met the Red Queen, who is Cartwright's own mother, and herself is an abusive parent who might have had something to do with it, how her son turned out. And it's unclear how much time she spent with her son and the two children he lived with, but over years she became the one whose abuses of Beth were less, shall we say, subtle than her son's. Like, he was the emotional manipulator, tormenting Beth with the things he had forced her to see and do, and taunts about her family, while his mother just berated her, terrorized her, and seemed to hate her for her youth and beauty. Over the years, the two of them broke Beth down until the day she finally snapped. And I'm honestly surprised it took her that long to snap with these two people in her life. And so, somehow, this is where, in an episode about child abuse and the deepest fears of a broken and mad woman, the episode went from dark to downright pitch black. Because back when Kate was uncertain whether Alice really was her long-lost and presumed dead twin sister, Alice proved herself by producing a necklace containing their shared birthstone. It was part of a matching set between the sisters given to them at their bat mitzvah and made to match a pair of earrings worn by their mother. So one day, as Beth is serving the Red Queen her tea, she notices the woman wearing a familiar set of earrings, and suddenly, having a little trouble talking today, but everything clicks into place, and she races to the outbuilding on the property, a room which holds a freezer she was told never to open, and there's a reason there's a lock on it, because inside she finds exactly what she feared. Her mother's severed head, which apparently Cartwright had found after the accident and had brought it back to his house. So in that moment, Beth's entire world is finally shattered along with her mind, and Alice is born. as the Red Queen becomes her first victim. And Scarsden's performance in this episode is nothing short of extraordinary. She's been the standout since the start, and through these 15 episodes has slipped into so many different versions of this character, peeling back layers to reveal the hints of a person beneath. And she's played what could be a caricature of a villain with humanity and empathy. And this episode and these performances brought the evolution of that character full circle. And her actions since her escape from Cartwright and the Red Queen are not justified, because, she's murdered countless people with no sign of remorse, but it is hard not to feel sympathy for someone who has obviously gone through so much to get here. It's also hard not to wonder if some amount of Beth really is still in there, buried deep beneath the Alice she created to protect herself. So Jacob and Kate both seem like they might be willing to believe that again, as both dropped what they were doing to rescue Alice from her nightmares. Before she took off to save Mouse, Alice left Kate a gift. Cartwright tied up at the bat signal with a bow on top and a note in his mouth. While Jacob goes to rescue his other daughter, Kate stays behind to force more information out of Cartwright to help save her sister. But the truth is hard to bear. Beth found that out years before, and as Kate discovers that this man before her not only took her sister from her, but kept her mother's head in a freezer, she too snaps. And just like Alice, her first action is to kill. So there are definitely some distinct differences in the way Kate and Alice react. Even if the results are the same, Alice is calm and deliberate when she chooses to end the old woman's life. Kate is all rage and grief when she leaps onto Cartwright. And she doesn't make a decision so much as react to her own overflow of emotions, but what's done is ultimately done. So for Alice, it is perhaps exactly what she was trying to do all along, as she tells their father, "Both of your daughters are killers now." And we're at an interesting turning point in the series now, with Kate now a murderer, because she and Alice have something odd to bond over. And as the episode comes to a close, Kate chooses not to run to Sophie, and instead she and her sister set off to bury Cartwright's body and hide her crime. So the city's hero is now an undisputed criminal. Jacob will likely be implicated as well, covering for one daughter while learning new things about the other, all while attempting to root out corruption in his own agency. So it's definitely a complicated time to be a Kane, and I'm excited to see next week when they're trying to hide the body, because that sounds like a complicated process. And I don't think that either of them would really have experience with it, because yes, Alice kills all the time, but it's not like she buries the bodies. She doesn't hide them, she just leaves them there. And this is the first person Kate has ever killed, so this is definitely new for her. So yeah, next week seems like it's going to be an interesting episode, and this was definitely a really good episode. But what did you think about this episode? And are you excited for next week with burying a body? So thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video, so I can bestow all my DC knowledge upon you.